Hi everyone, I'm Patrick from AssemblyAI and welcome back to our final lesson of the Python for AI development course. So far you have learned how to set up a development environment with Python, how to prepare data and then build your own models, how to leverage model hubs, and now we look at APIs for AI development. So using APIs is for sure the simplest solution to access state-of-the-art models. You simply need to use a few API calls. So in this video, we look at three cool APIs that you can use. We look at OpenAI to access large language models. We look at AssemblyAI to work with audio data, so for speech recognition and understanding your audio. And lastly, we look at Replicate. Replicate is also pretty cool, where you can do a lot of different things. So there we look at an image generation example. So let's get started. First, let's look at the OpenAI API and how we can access large language models with it. So for this, go to platform.openai.com and sign up because we need an API key for this. And then we look at a chat example with ChatGPT and also some text completion, so text generation examples. So for the chat example, let's click on here and have a look at the docs. And now we copy this code. This is pretty much everything that we need. And now let's go to your IDE. In the first lesson, I showed you how to set up VS Code. And so create a new project, or you can use the project from the first lesson. And in here, create a new file, and let's call this OpenAI demo.py and paste in the code. So we import OpenAI. This is a package that we have to install. And then we call OpenAI.chatCompletion.create, and we pass in the model name and then the messages we want to use for the chat. And this will return a response, so we can store this in a variable. And for now, let's simply print this. So here we print response. And now we can run this code. But first we have to install this package. And in the first lesson, I showed you how to create and activate environments with Conda. So here I set Conda create -n, and then I gave it the name AI demo, and I specified the Python version. So do this if you haven't already. And then we can activate this by saying Conda activate AI demo. And now here we install this, but we don't say Conda install. Here we say pip install, and we say pip install OpenAI. And now we can use the OpenAI package. So now we can say Python OpenAI demo.py. But I think if we run this, this will fail because we haven't, here it says authentication error. So we need to set the API key first. And in order to do this, go to your account and then manage account or view API keys. And here you find the different ones. So you can generate a new one and then make sure to save this somewhere. And because you cannot see this later again, so I already did this. And I start this in here. So I will now copy and paste this. Of course, I will delete this after recording again. So now in order to set this, there are different ways to do this. One way is to say OpenAI.API key and then equals, and now as a string, we paste in the key. So now this should work. And now if we run this again, then we should see a result. And yeah, so here we have the response. Now we no longer have the error. And as you can see, this is a dictionary. And in here we have the choices field, and then we have a list. And in here we have the message, and then we have the content. And this is the response that we get back from our chat model. So now to access this field, we have to access the inner fields of the response. And I think we can also find this in the documentation. If we scroll down and have a look at the response format, then it gives us this part. So let's copy and paste this. So now we also want to print the response choices and then the first choice and then the message and then the content. So if I comment this out and run it again, then we should only see the response message. So yeah, this is working. So this is how we can work with the chat completion endpoint. And now I want to show you a second endpoint. So if we have a look at the documentation again, then here on the left side, you will find all the different guides that you can use. For example, text completion, code completion, chat completion. This is what we just did. Then we can even do image generation, fine-tuning, embeddings, and some more. So let's click on text completion. And with this, we can do all kinds of stuff. So let's scroll down. And what's really cool here is that we can easily use the playground. For example, we can click on open this example in playground. And now we can click on view code. So first of all, we can of course submit this and inspect the result, but we can also click on view code. And now we get the code snippet. So let's copy and paste this and see how this looks like. So here again, we import OpenAI. So we already did this. And this time here, they start the key in as an environment variable. So this is how you would access it from the environment, because of course, in a live application, you don't want to write and hard code the key like this. So, but we already set the key, so we can also get rid of this. And now the code looks very similar. So we call OpenAI, and now we call the .completion endpoint. Then again, create, and then again, we can select the model. Then here we give it the prompt, and now we can play around with different parameters. And now if we print the response, then again, we should see a dictionary. So let me actually remove the first example again, and now we only do this. So now again, let's run the file with Python OpenAI demo.py. And then again, we see the result where we have a dictionary with choices and then the first choice. And here we get the text. So it created a sweet escape for the senses. And the prompt was write a tagline for an ice cream shop. So this worked as well. And yeah, this is pretty much all to get started with the OpenAI API. And by the way, the models, so for this, again, you can have a look at the documentation and click on models. And here you find all the different ones and some description, and then the names, how you can access them. And then there's also more information about the parameters you can use. So yeah, I encourage you to play around with this API. So now let's look at the next one. Now let's learn about AssemblyAI and how we can use it to transcribe and understand speech. So here we can submit audio and video files and then transcribe them. So to get started, go to AssemblyAI.com. And by the way, to play around with this for free, you can select the playground. And here you can paste in any YouTube link you want, or you can upload local files. So I'm uploading a local file that I prepared, and later I show you how to do the same in the code. Then click on Next, and here you can select all the different AI models they have. For example, you can select summarization, topic detection, auto chapters, content moderation, and a few more. So for our example, let's select transcription and summarization, and then click on Next. And now it will take a few moments. So here it says it takes roughly 15 to 30% of the file's duration. So let's wait until this is done. And we get the results. So here we see the transcript, and on the right side we also see the summarization. So we have a very short summarization of the whole transcript. We can also play the audio file if we want and have a look if this is correct. So now let's learn how we can do this in the code. So to work with the API, go to AssemblyAI.com and then sign up. You can do this for free, or you can simply use the link in the description. And after signing up, you should see your dashboard. And here you need to copy away your API key. So click on copy. And now let's go back to our IDE and let's create a new file, and let's call this AssemblyAI demo.py. And here let's create a variable that we call API key equals, and now as a string we paste in our key. Then let's go to the documentation. So we can click on developers, documentation, and here we find walkthroughs for all the different steps that we can do. So the first thing we want to do is submitting files for transcription, or no, sorry, we actually want to start by uploading a local file for transcription. So let's click on this, and here you find a walkthrough with a pretty nice explanation. And we can simply copy the code from the example. We can also switch the code. So I want to use Python, of course. So let's copy and paste this. And paste this in here. And then let's go over this together. So this time we import requests. And requests is a module to send API requests. So here we don't use an SDK like the OpenAI package. Here we use a more general approach by sending the GET and POST requests ourselves. And the first thing we do is to specify the file name, and I prepared this here, the audio.mp3. So let's change this to audio.mp3. And now here we have a helper function that will load the file in chunks. Then we have to define the headers, and here we define the API key. So for this, let's copy the API key above the headers and then simply use the API key here. And then we send a POST request to the upload endpoint, this one here, and we also have to send the headers and the data. And then we print response JSON, so we get a JSON response back. And now in order to run this, we need to say pip install requests. So this is also a third-party module. And now we can run the file, so we can say python AssemblyAI demo.py. And this worked, and you can see we get an upload URL back. So now we have to submit this URL to the transcription endpoint. So let's go back to the documentation and select submitting files for transcription. And let's again copy and paste the code snippet. So this time we define an endpoint, and the endpoint is this one here. At the end we have /transcript. Then we define the JSON payload, and it has to contain the audio URL field. And here we can paste in this URL that we just got back. So I'm copy and pasting it in here. Of course, if you want to do this in one step, you can also say the URL equals, and then here you access response JSON. And if you have a look, the field is called upload URL. So then as a string, you say upload URL, and now this will be the audio URL. So we can also do it like this, but since I already submitted the file, I can actually comment this one here out and then only send the next request. So here we define the transcript endpoint, then we define the audio URL, then we already have the headers, and now we send a POST request. And this time we send the JSON data and the headers, and then again we print the response. So let's save the file and then run again Python and then our script. And here we get a long response back, but the only field for now that we need is the ID field. So then again we could access it like by saying we call this transcript ID equals response JSON and the ID field. But since we already did this, we can simply copy and paste this and then insert it in here. And then let's comment this out. And now the last step is to get the result. So here we only submitted it for the transcription, but now we need to check if the result is available. So we can click on getting the transcription result and then again copy the code. So let's copy this and go over this. So this time, again, we define an endpoint, and the endpoint in the end has transcript / and then the ID. So this is where we want to put the transcript ID, and for this we can use curly braces, and then we use the transcript ID, and then we have to use an F before the string. So this is called an F string. This basically combines the string with this variable. And now again, we have the header, so we already defined them. And now we send a GET request to this new endpoint with only the headers. And now we get a response. And the response has a status field. So here we find information about the response. And in here you will find the status. And it could be either queued, processing, completed, or error. So let's check if the status is completed. So for this, let's say we can again assign the spec. So we say response equals response JSON and then status. So let's assign this to a variable that is called status. And then we say if the status equals completed, and now we can print the response and then JSON, and then the field is the text field. So if we have a look back, then here you will find also the text. So let's run this and save this. And now let's see if this works. And by now the transcript was already completed. So now you see we get only the transcript. AssemblyAI is a deep learning company that blah, blah, blah. So this is working as well. And of course, if this is not yet completed, then what you can do a while true loop and try this over and over again. So for this, you can import the time package. And this is built in, so we don't have to install this. So then down here, we create a while true loop. And then we again and again send the GET request. And then we can check. So let's indent this correctly. And now if we check if the status is completed, then we break out of the while true, so now it will be ended. We can also do a elif and say elif if the status equals an error. We can also break, and here we can, for example, print the error. And otherwise, if it is either queued or processing, then we wait a few moments. So here we say, for example, time.sleep, and then let's wait 10 seconds. And then it will do this again until the status is either completed or an error. And this is all we have to do to transcribe audio files. And by the way, if you want to try out other models like the summarization, for example, you also find them in the docs. So you can click on summarization, and it's super simple to activate them. So the only thing you have to do is in the second step. So here, when we trigger the transcription with the transcript endpoint, in the payload that we send over together with the audio URL, we also have to send some additional fields. Like for this one, we send summarization equals true. And then we can also define the summary model or the summary type. And for example, if we try sentiment analysis, then the only thing we have to send over is sentiment analysis equals true. So let's send this in here. And this is everything you have to do to turn on other AI models as well. So super simple. And yeah, this is how to work with AssemblyAI. And now the last API I want to show you is Replicate, that you find on replicate.com. With Replicate, you can run machine learning models in the cloud at scale super easily. And here also users can upload their own models and they will be deployed for you. So you only have to call them via the API, and it makes it super simple. It only takes a few lines of code. So to get started, again, go to replicate.com and then you can sign up with your GitHub account. And then you get an API token. And then you can click on Explore. And then here you can find all the different models that are available. There are also different categories. For example, we want to try out a diffusion model and then the popular stable diffusion model. And then here you find some information. You can also try this here. And you can easily click on API. And then you have the instructions how to run this from Python. So for this, we need to pip install replicate. So again, let's go to our project and our make sure to activate your environment. So let's say pip install replicate. And now let's create a new file. So let's call this replicate demo.py. And then let's continue. And the next thing they recommend is to export the replicate API token. So you could do it like this. So you say export replicate API token equals and do this in your terminal. I want to show you a different way how you can safely store tokens in Python and then load them. So another way to do this is to create a .env file. And here you create your token or your environment variable. So this one is called replicate API token. And then you say equals. And now let's get this from our dashboard. So here you can find and copy your token. And now we can go back to the replicate demo. And then we can say, first, let's copy the example code. So if we go back again to the example, then this is all the code that we need. So we don't need to set the token for replicate like we did for OpenAI. We only need to have this as environment variable. And in order to load this now, we use another package that is called python.env. So we say pip install python -.env. And now we can say from .env import load.env, and then we call this. So this is a function, and now this is in our environment. So now we added this environment variable, and now this will work. So let's go quickly over this. So we import replicate, then we define the model and the version, and then the inputs. So here we define the prompt, and here we want a vision of paradise, Unreal Engine. Then we can define some more parameters. And then we simply call version predict with the inputs, and then we print the output. So let's clear this and let's run this file and check if this works. And we get the response back. So this is simply a URL that we can now open. And here we find the image. So here an image of a paradise. And this is how easily you can get started with replicate. And then again, there are so many more models you can try out, and it's so easy to apply them. They are deployed for you. So yeah, try them out as well. So yeah, these are all the APIs I wanted to show you in this tutorial. Of course, there are many other great ones, but now you can work with large language models, with audio data, with text to image generations, and many more models. And I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and the whole course. Hopefully now you are equipped with the skills to build AI projects in Python. If you enjoyed this tutorial, then please drop us a like and consider subscribing to a channel. There will be many more AI tutorials coming in the future. So I hope to see you next time. Bye.